When you're a war journalist, you see a lot of horrible stuff. All the stories I've done, I've seen the absolute worst of humanity. But I've also gotten to see the best. 6 years ago, I saw him, the greatest, most mysterious hero of our time, up close in action. I witnessed firsthand what he did that day, and it changed everything for me. Anyone listening to this knows exactly who I'm talking about. The guy who saved us, saved Earth, saved mankind. Master Chief Petty Officer Spartan 117, whom we now know is simply the Master Chief. A few months ago, I was hired to do an in-depth profile on the Chief. Exclusive access, the whole thing. Since then, I've gotten to talk to a lot of people who claim they know the real Master Chief. The boy, the soldier, the hero, the traitor. See, I've always known where a story was going before it started. I'd known exactly the story I wanted to tell for years. The story all of us wanted to hear. Glossy, inspiring, the blockbuster hero biography. That's all this was supposed to be. But the truth isn't always that clean. When I pulled that first loose thread, something broke. Now everything is caving in, and I find myself stuck with all these ugly questions I never intended to ask. Fabricated histories? People who aren't who they say they are? Cover-ups of cover-ups? That steady drumbeat of theories that used to sound insane, now they don't seem so out there. And these disturbing rumors, reports of anomalies. Something big is happening in deep space, and I can't even corroborate a single fact about one man's life. It's clear to me now. I can't fix the pretty story, but maybe I can break the ugly one. For the first time in my career, I can honestly say I don't know the shape of where this is going. And in fact, the possibilities have me lying awake at night, but I believe we all deserve to know the real story. We need to know where this leads. I know I do. So I find myself back at the beginning. Who is the Master Chief? Where does he come from? And is he keeping us safe? Join me as I hunt the truth about the Master Chief. There's a story you tell yourself when the world blows up in your face. There's no way you could have seen it coming. No one could have, so there was no way to stop it. This is what lets you sleep at night. But go back in your mind to before it all happened. Replay it in your head, except this time, maybe you'll see it. Something small, out of place. Maybe it's just a single thread, but it's the truth. Nobody saw it coming when they arrived. An alien race known as the Covenant. Before 2552, there was no way anything like that could ever happen on Earth. On one of those distant planets in the outer colonies? Maybe. But an attack on Earth? Couldn't happen. Until it did. It's called glassing. Covenant warships rain plasma down on a planet until everything and everyone on the surface melts. Usually it's complete world destruction. Earth only got a taste. The prolonged orbital bombardment destroyed East Africa, killing millions before it ended. None of us were safe anymore. But something else happened that day too. Or someone. You've heard the eyewitness accounts. Every skeptic has seen the footage. I was there, and yet still to this day, it's unbelievable. A massive man in green armor appeared seemingly out of nowhere in New Mombasa, performed superhuman feats to single-handedly repel a global invasion and then disappeared? This was the Master Chief. The Unified Earth Government's military body, the UNSC, eventually released a statement. Who he is, where he came from, and that he's continuing to keep us safe. And that was that. But who is the Master Chief? Where did he come from? Is he continuing to keep us safe? I'm Benjamin Giraud, and this is Hunt the Truth. For all us cosmopolitan Earth types who don't venture into the far reaches of space, there's a planet way out in the outer colonies called Eridanus II. If you're thinking of visiting, don't bother. It was catastrophically glassed in a Covenant attack in 2530. But 19 years before it got wiped out, our hero, Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, then known as John, was born in a metropolis called Elysium City. That's where I started.
Do I remember him? Oh, yeah, you don't forget a kid like that.
That's Dion Govender. He chatted with me from his home in the outer colonies. Dion's retired now, but years ago he taught John at Elysium City Primary Education Facility number 119. Apparently schools in the outer colonies don't have the catchiest names.
John was something else. He was sharp and quick, always evaluating the situation. Other kids just gravitated to him, you know?
Dion seemed most excited to talk about John's athletic ability. The kids used to play King of the Hill after school. You know, the old game where you wrestle and push each other to try to be the last man standing.
I would walk by sometimes, see him playing after school, you know, and without fail, I swear, it was always John standing alone at the top of that hill.
Right.
Yeah, every single day.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think the other kids ended up fighting for who got to be king halfway up the hill because nobody was messing with John.
I definitely remember John. You're going way
That's Ellie
back with
Bloom,
that question.
another lifelong resident of the outer colonies. When she was young, she and John lived on the same street, just a few houses down.
Well, he was a little younger than me, but let me tell you, that boy did not look like a kindergartner. He was a big kid. My friend Katrina and I used to meet him in this vacant lot in the neighborhood. The three of us would build these obstacle courses out of random junk and then race. You know, just kid stuff.
As Ellie talked about her early years in Elysium, it wasn't long before she was getting nostalgic.
On warm nights, sometimes our parents would let us go out to the green space and lie in the grass. And we'd just lie there, stare up at the stars. It was a nice place to grow up.
Finding Ellie was a huge win for me. When a planet's been glassed, tracking down former residents can be damn near impossible. Any records kept locally, paper, hardened data storage, even human memories, after a full-scale glassing, they're just gone. Thankfully, though, the Office of Naval Intelligence, or ONI, had furnished me with a list of interviewees. That's how I'd gotten Dion. But I wanted to go the extra mile with this story, so I'd hit up some of my old connections in the outer colonies looking for more sources. Ellie was my only hit so far.
Did you keep in touch with John?
No, I wasn't allowed to use Waypoint much when I was little. But I did keep in touch with Katrina. We still talk, actually. You know, she probably remembers John. I'm gonna tell her I talked to you. Wait, what was this for again? It's a military thing?
Oh, no. John is the Master Chief.
What? He's
Yeah. John became the Master Chief.
like the Master Chief.
Yep.
Oh my God, no way, are you serious?
I'm not kidding you. I'm telling
my
you.
God, that's crazy.
Ellie lost her mind for a few minutes. I guess it's not every day you find out that your childhood playmate saved the galaxy.
Oh my God, now I'm definitely telling Katrina. I mean, she is gonna freak out.
All right, so maybe Ellie wasn't going to be much help. I needed more of the young warrior angle. Here's Dion
Tell you
again.
the boxing story.
No. What's that?
Okay, so.
Not yet.
I taught the primary kids, you know, right? But I also ran this boxing league at the high school.
Uh-huh.
Now, second week, we're doing drills in the gym. John walks in.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, John is in 6th grade at the time. I say, hey, John, what's up? He says, I want to sign up for boxing. And I say, John, you're 12. You know, what are you talking about?
But John was adamant.
But I look at him and he ain't leaving.
Right.
So I said, okay, what the hell? Figure let it be a formative lesson for the kid. I don't know what it, so I put him in the ring with one of the smaller guys. John pummeled this boy. It was over in about 15 seconds, okay? So, well, all right, well, I put him in with this bruiser. Now, a real good fighter,
Yeah.
okay? Good fighter. 2 punches. John laid him out. 12 years old.
I liked talking to Dion.
Never seen anything
He was
like
warm and funny in that grandfatherly memory lane kind of way.
Never missed a practice.
I realized I'd gotten lost in it all when the narrative took a dark turn.
But then, one week, John just didn't show up.
It was 25-24. John was 13. That's when the nightmare of the insurrection that had been plaguing the outer colonies finally landed on John's community. Under pressure from UNSC troops, the rebels were on their last leg, desperately seizing territory in the region and launching paranoid inquisitions to find spies. Civilian abductions and interrogations became commonplace.
They would just, question you. Just these meaningless questions for hours and hours.
Thomas Wu was living on a neighboring colony when the rebels showed up and hit hard, sweeping up Thomas and thousands of others in raids. What followed was months of horribly overcrowded detainment, neglect, and often constant questioning.
Did you know this guy? What are the encryption codes for this system, that system? And you have no idea what they're even asking you.
In the final couple months, Thomas says his captors started coming unhinged, and then toward the end, they just disappeared, leaving Thomas and hundreds of others locked up, starving. I don't want to play this part of the interview, but I'll tell you, it got bad. He talks about being packed in like sardines, warm bodies, cold bodies, people dying in the dark, the smell. He doesn't know how long it lasted, maybe weeks, but Thomas and many others survived. They made it out.
Well, we helped each other. We looked out for each other. And I mean that was the only way. We made it through to the liberation, and then we left. We never looked back.
When I asked him where the survivors relocated to, Thomas began to list off which cities were safe for refugees at the time. Decades later, he can still recite them all from memory. I asked about John's hometown.
Perth City.
What about Elysium City?
No. Insurrectionist cesspool. Yeah, no, they got it bad there.
Dion Govender confirms this.
In Elysium City, people just disappeared back then. Just happened. Once the insurrectionists took over, whole neighborhoods just got scooped up.
This went on for months.
Every day.
He talks about watching his community get torn apart slowly, every day. I asked him about John.
Yeah. Him and his parents. Sean missed the first practice and the last one. Back then, it seemed like everybody had... I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Take your time. It was hard watching Dion break down like this. He just looked defeated. These kinds of interviews are brutal. I wanted to comfort him, but it just felt condescending. Like I have any idea what it was like for him. So we were quiet for a bit. Before we ended, though, he said this.
I think that if anything good can be said to have come from all of this, it's that everyone who went through it can know that their struggle wasn't for nothing. When you have a young man who can rise up from something like this and do what John has done, he honors all of us.
Dion believed in John, the way the rest of us believe in the Master Chief. He made it seem like this tragedy that shaped him was almost necessary. I certainly felt like I had the proper beginnings to a hero's origin story. The story made sense. It felt right. Sometimes you have to go back, though. Look again, because maybe you'll see something small, out of place, that single thread. Later that evening, after my interview with Dion, I was pretty drained, so I spent some time sifting through a bunch of file boxes. I'd paid this scavenger in the outer colonies to dig around and send over any Elysium City documents she could find. The only local government records left were hard copies, but I took them anyway. I was sorting through a messy box of local census registries when I stumbled across John's name. One line of basic information, printed out in black and white. That's when I saw it. A single letter next to his name. D. I was staring at an official document that said quite plainly that in 2517, John died at 6 years old. Please join me for the next episode of Hunt the Truth. I couldn't believe it. According to the document I was looking at, John, the boy who would go on to become the Master Chief, died 41 years ago. My protagonist, the greatest hero of our time, was dead at 6. It was a major discrepancy, and I needed to find a way to fix it. I'm Benjamin Giroux, and this is Hunt the Truth.
Continue to hold.
If you ever happen to obtain sufficient clearance to call the Office of Naval Intelligence, you'll be on hold for at least an hour. If you ever happen to get a call from them, you will also wait an hour. And in the end, they never unblock the video, so you just end up talking to a really crisp insignia. I am waiting to talk with Michael Sullivan, hoping he can help me with my little records problem.
Continue to hold.
And it's been 85 minutes. Michael Sullivan, also known as Sully, works for the ONI in public relations. If it seems odd to you that the most secretive agency in our government has a PR department, you're not alone. But that's not something I'd mention to them. Besides, Sully had hooked me up with the assignment in the first place. I was grateful for the opportunity.
Office of Naval Intelligence. Public Relations.
Ben,
Hi, Sully. Hey, yeah, thanks for taking my call.
absolutely. How are the sources?
Up until this point, I'd had no problems with the story. All my facts had been lining up nicely, but now
Love it.
I had an obscure document from the far reaches of the galaxy that listed John as deceased. This contradicted everything. I needed Sully to make it make sense, and thankfully, he did just that.
Welcome to the outer colonies. Nothing makes sense out there.
No, I know. It's just, I just want to make sure that I button up all the details.
And that's what you're doing. Look, Ben, it's the far reaches of space out there, and the planet you're talking about was glassed to hell. You know just as well as anybody that if there are any local records, they're a mess.
Okay, so I felt a little stupid. Sully was right. It's a real problem in the outer colonies. Planets destroyed by glassing have bad records. Every researcher knows this, and every researcher knows that questioning that fact is standard fodder for conspiracy theorists.
It's a cover-up. That's government secrecy 101.
That's a message I received last week from a man named Meshach Maradi. He's one of many truthers out there who've come out of the woodwork since I started doing this story. Apparently, he heard I was investigating the Master Chief. Meshach seems less ridiculous than most of the characters who've been filling up my inbox, but he's definitely been the most persistent. He's left me a message every day for the past 2 months. I never respond, but I did find the timing of his last message pretty funny.
Let me guess. The government is telling you that the records don't make sense because the planet was glassed, right? That's what they tell you.
Technically, Meshach was right. That was what the government was telling me. But unfortunately for Meshach's theory, it was true. Glassed planets have bad records. John's childhood friend, Ellie Bloom, has dealt with this reality her whole life. I recalled what she'd said in her interview.
I mean, it can be hard enough out here trying to do business between planets that haven't been glassed. There's so much upheaval. Keeping track of personal records, financial documents, medical records, it's a total crapshoot.
In retrospect, I'd probably been asking for this kind of hiccup. Getting cute with the research, opening up a rat's nest of old paper records, and for what? All I'd dug up from slogging on my own was a few hazy kindergarten stories from Ellie and a nonsensical death record. But things were looking up. Sully had arranged a face-to-face interview with ONI Vice Admiral Gabriela Dvorak. That not only got me off-world, but it was on board the newest Autumn-class heavy cruiser, the UNSC Under the Breach. Got a private shuttle up, full luxury. They had me riding in style. When I came aboard, Dvorak even greeted me personally. Now, civilians aren't normally allowed on board an active-duty ship, let alone given this sort of attention.
Please, call me Gabriella.
Okay.
This was not the kind of hospitality I was used to.
What brings you way out here?
Work.
She told me she was on a detachment and in the neighborhood. I guess I lucked out. The white glove treatment continued too. Captain's mess, officers' quarters, the whole thing. By the time we finally got to her office for the interview, Dvorak could have said anything, and I'd have been thrilled. But she's the real deal, and she jumped right into it.
It was that finally moment. After all the fighting was done, I was helping lead all the prisoners out of the containers.
As a lieutenant in the UNSC, Gabriella not only took part in the ground operations that freed John and countless others from the rebel labor camps in Elysium City, but she remembered the 13-year-old as well. She described the liberation.
When you saw them, what had been done to them, you realized who you'd been fighting to save. The aftermath of it, it was ugly. Everyone was streaming out into the daylight, squinting, limping, just gray and fragile and sickly. Their backs were hunched, all their eyes just staring at the ground. I mean, they looked dead.
That's when she saw John.
He was sticking out like a sore thumb. In the middle of all this just beaten humanity, there's this tall, young kid walking toward me, towering over the others, his shoulders back, his eyes forward, and when he passed me, he looked right at me. Looked in my eyes. I mean, that doesn't sound like much, but that eye contact coming from someone in that moment who'd been in that circumstance was shocking. He looked malnourished and dehydrated like everybody else, but he was so young. And whatever had broken all these people, it hadn't broken him.
In the aftermath, Dvorak remained stationed in Elysium City, working in the refugee camps. From the first day, John stepped up to help Gabriella with her duties. She came to know him well over the next several months.
There was a point when he told me about his parents, that they'd been abducted along with him. He didn't say much, but they didn't make it.
Her understanding was that it had gotten ugly in there. They died a couple days apart, a few weeks before the liberation, and John was there when it happened. On the rare occasion when John opened up about this, Dvorak says it was memorable.
He would get this look on his face when he talked about it. It's hard to describe. I'd see it on him other times, too. He seemed to feel the weight of all that had happened, but still, he was calm. Not angry, not desperate, just resolute. He was a remarkable young man.
Like so many people at the time in Elysium City and throughout this region of the galaxy, John had lost his home, his family, everything. People packed up whatever they had left, got out of town, and most never looked back. But Dion Govender, John's boxing coach, said many of them found a way to get some measure of closure.
Yeah, definitely. We all got separated and spread out across the planet and the colonies, but some of us were able to cobble together a list of names and kind of a memorial that grew longer as we got more information. Yeah, I remember seeing John's parents' names on the list early on, but not John. After he missed that last practice, never saw him again, but I remember thinking, that's okay. You know, as long as I never see his name on this list, that's okay. And I never did.
His will to survive left an impression on then-Lieutenant Gabriella Dvorak as well.
I think John just didn't want to be a victim anymore. I remember him telling me he was going to enlist. He said he was going to make a difference. I've never been more sure of another person than I was of him when he said that.
Out of the chaos of war, from the rubble, a young John was able to forge a purpose for himself. A purpose that would drive him to become the hero the galaxy would one day need him to be. This is the kind of turn in a story that gives me patriotic goosebumps. I was feeling genuinely moved on my trip back home. When I got there, though, Ellie Bloom was going to ruin all that for me.
Hey, I just wanted to follow up with you about your story. I'm really confused.
Okay, what's...
Remember how I said I was going to tell my friend Katrina about it?
Katrina was that other girl in John's neighborhood, the third wheel in Ellie's childhood stories of playing with John. Ellie had moved off planet in 2517, but Katrina had stayed.
She said that John was dead. He died when he was 6.
Wait, what? What?
John was perfectly healthy, but then he just started wasting away. At first they thought maybe it was some autoimmune thing, and then they thought it was something else, and then something else, and then meanwhile he's getting all these tests, but the doctors couldn't figure it out at all, and his parents were panicking. It sounded horrible.
Then John died. Just like that. I had no idea what to make of this. Ellie seemed convinced, though, so I got her to put me in touch with her friend Katrina. Katrina wouldn't let me record the interview, but this woman was adamant. I wanted to discount what she was saying, but she seemed to remember it so vividly, providing extensive detail, I couldn't ignore it. As far as this person was concerned, John was dead. Before I could even begin to wrap my head around that claim, though, here was the kicker from Katrina. John's parents were alive and well in Elysium City all the way up until Katrina left the planet in 2528, 4 years after their supposed death. She was wrong. She had to be thinking of someone else, or she was lying. Why would she lie, though? I had to admit she seemed pretty convincing, but it didn't make sense otherwise. I still thought I could fix the story, though. Make the pieces fit, make it make sense. But what I didn't realize was that this crack was only the beginning, and the whole ugly mess was about to split open. Please join me for the next episode of Hunt the Truth. Ray, you tell me you got something.
Yeah, I do.
Ray Kurzig is a good friend of mine and a completely emotionless robot. I mean that in the best way. As an independent analyst, he's the most efficient and resourceful researcher I know. That's why I'd sicked him on this story a few days earlier. I needed to debunk the claims of Ellie's friend Katrina. He was in the area on business, so he took the time to come down and meet with me at my home office. So Katrina told me that John died at 6 years old.
Right,
And his parents, who supposedly died in a rebel prison, were still alive years later.
right.
No, this woman's ruining my story, Ray. Tell me why she's lying.
Well, she's not.
Ray had found copious financial records indicating that John's parents were not just alive past 25-24, but working and paying their bills. They died in 25-24. Come on, man.
Well, sorry. Their employers and a preponderance of local merchants disagree with you. I mean, the central repositories were really thin, but you dig through enough mirrored archives, it all pops up. The records are there.
Ray swiped through document after document corroborating this. He even showed me medical insurance claims for a pediatric autoimmune specialist in 2517. Exactly when Katrina said John got sick. I was laughing, but I didn't find any of it funny. I'm Benjamin Giroux, and this is Hunt the Truth.
Continue to hold.
Jeez. Come on.
Office of Naval Intelligence. Public Relations.
Finally. Hey, Sully.
Tell me good things, Ben.
It was disconcerting to be talking to the ONI insignia again, but I started positive. The story was going really well. But that little data problem, the death record, it was back. I was hoping Sully would smooth it out for me.
Ben, I thought we talked about this. Glassed planets have bad records.
No, I know. I just,
Glassed
it's not
planets
just the
have bad records, Ben.
actually.
This is colonial journalism
listen, Sully, if you
101.
could. People are saying.
Serious with this?
People
Glassed
are saying.
planets.
Listen, do glassed people have bad records?
Ben, are you recording right now?
Yes. That was my cue to stop recording. The off-the-record conversation was brief. Sully asked me if I wanted to do the next interview. What he meant was, do you want to keep this job? I said yes.
Your call is over.
Well, as you can see, I've pretty much permanently stationed myself on this beach.
That was my next interview.
Attire here.
Jacob Walker,
Hope it doesn't
retired
offend you.
Navy. He lives in a beach community way out on Castellaneta. The first thing I noticed about Walker when he answered my call was that he wasn't wearing a shirt, which made us both laugh. He explained that after 28 years of service, as far as he was concerned, it was all R&R all the time. I couldn't argue with that philosophy. He slipped on a t-shirt and I asked him about the Master Chief.
Oh, hell yeah, John. You bet your ass I remember him.
Walker's career began 3 decades ago with Naval Force Reconnaissance School at Black Sea. Little did he know boot camp would turn out to be something he'd never forget. Walker was there alongside the young man who would become the Master Chief. The gravity of that was not lost on him.
I mean, they pushed us real hard, but John, Well, he'd push us even harder, not even trying. You screwed up. You didn't know whether to be more scared of the CO or John.
At first, though, Walker was unimpressed.
Oh, no, man. I remember, I think it was the first week, there was a lot of talk. We were outside the mess tent, me and these other two jackasses getting into it, chests all puffed up and talking about being cold-blooded killers and stepping on necks, all that. I wanted to be in leadership one day. And, of course, I was 19 and jacked as hell, so, well, I figured I only had so much competition. Meanwhile, there's this quiet nobody from nowhere standing on the fringes looking at the horizon. John. Yeah, first I thought he was 20, 21. He's a big dude. Turns out he was only 16. I mean, that kid wasn't even on my radar.
Soon, though, Walker says all that machismo fell to the wayside and a real leader emerged in John.
Training exercises, whoever finished last got the brunt. I mean, last one in on a 20-mile, you're walking back while we catch a Pelican dropship. And that there's some downright lethal terrain, too. Reach is, well, it was a tough planet. But John, man, he took lead every time. A lot of risk and responsibility. Didn't have to, but, hell, he did it. And then halfway in, he'd start to hang back, you know, and help the stragglers. You're injured, whatever. He'd be right there helping you out.
And then without fail, Walker says, John always made sure he came in last and took the punishment.
He made us all want to follow his lead. Try harder and help each other. I mean, we're supposed to do that, but nobody ever really wanted to until then. Anyway, we did it. But taking the hit for the group, now that was John's thing. I only challenged him for the honor once. I'd never made that mistake again.
Walker's in his early 50s now, but he seemed lit up with the energy of a much younger man. It seemed the will that he and the other recruits had, in a sense, borrowed from John so many years ago, was still inspiring Walker. It was remarkable. He knew John, lived with him for months, yet to him, John still seemed to be an almost mythical character.
What he was able to do, getting back on his own like that in the pitch black, no nav equipment, man, he was inhuman.
That kid was a monster, all right? They all were.
Anthony Petrosky, a retired orbital drop shock trooper I found through Mishak Maradi. Yes, that Mishak Maradi, the truther who's been messaging me for months. And yes, I was pretty desperate for leads. We'll leave it at that. But Petrosky was definitely not on Sully's list of approved sources, so I went off-grid and contacted him through Chatternet. Here he is, talking about his only encounter with John.
The kid was a freak.
Can you be more specific?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. You know, me and a bunch of guys were sparring in the gym one day, and there was this young kid there. I mean, I guess you could call him a kid. He was pretty jacked, you know, but his face looked 12, maybe 13.
12 or 13? After enlisting, John didn't even finish boot camp until at least 17. Petrosky had to be wrong about his age, but I let it go.
Anyway, I guess he was acting tough when one of the guys asked his name. He told him, but he kind of, you know, gave him attitude, right? So people start mouthing off. Next thing I know, CPO orders the kid and 4 of the guys into the ring because they were supposed to
Wait,
fight him.
hold on, Anthony. Wait, you're telling me that the CPO ordered 4 soldiers to fight a high school kid?
No, a 12 or 13-year-old, like I said.
Yeah, fine. Either way, the CPO ordered 4 ODSTs to fight a kid.
You got it all wrong, okay? Because those 4 ODSTs were like lambs to the slaughter.
What, John outfought them?
No. It was way worse.
As he tells it, the ODSTs did as they were ordered. They surrounded John, and one of them swung. What happened next, Petrosky says, defied explanation.
Because the sound this kid's fist made, it sounded awful. Because they weren't like punches, they were like rapid fire explosions. Okay, I was across the gym, but I heard it. It was sick. Like meaty cracks in a drum roll. It was just like...
One of the ODSTs sustained a single body blow that instantly stopped his heart, killing him. Another trooper only took 1 shot from John as well, a punch that caved in the man's face. 2 fatalities, 1 ODST with a cracked pelvis, and 1 with a shattered spine. That guy never walked again. No one had to break up the fight. It was over in less than 5 seconds.
Wait, he killed them?
What he did was impossible.
What do you mean impossible? Like, how?
Like not human, all right? Like he was genetically augmented.
So you're telling me that someone had augmented John? Someone had genetically augmented a child?
Okay.
No?
Right. You think I'm lying?
I believe
Right.
that's what you
No, sure.
honestly think
Right.
you saw, but...
Look, here's the thing, Ben. I don't care if you believe me or not. This makes no difference in my world. I was there and you were somewhere else. So you're going to go write your little military cheerleader article, and I'm going to sit here and drink beer. So good luck.
Petrosky left me with a bad taste in my mouth. Now, it's no shocker that Spartans go through a few augmentations and upgrades, but those are fully developed adults. Could a 17-year-old, probably still growing, even survive that kind of procedure? It seemed horribly risky, and what if what Petrosky was saying was true? And John was only 13. Well, that was one hell of an accusation to make, the ethical implications of which were nauseating. I was still thinking about it the next day when Ellie Bloom's name popped up on my call list. I'd let her listen to a rough version of my first episode, and she had feedback for me. I didn't want to risk anyone listening in, so I let the call go, then hit her back on Chatternet.
Well, 2 things.
Okay.
2 major things.
Okay, yeah.
That boxing coach,
Dion Govender, yeah.
he's a liar.
Okay. How is he lying?
There wasn't any boxing at the high school.
How do you know for sure?
Because there wasn't any boxing on the entire planet.
She'd said they'd outlawed it forever ago, after a kid got injured. Afterwards, there was a long-standing controversy over how youth boxing was illegal, but no one seemed to care about all the Gravball concussions kids were getting. Regardless, by the turn of the century, she tells me nobody really boxed in Eridanus 2 anymore. She even gut checks me, telling me to go ahead, ask anybody from the colony. They'd tell me the same thing.
And there sure as hell wasn't a league for kids to do it at the high school. That's like saying there was a gun range at the toy store. It just didn't happen. And the other thing, those kidnappings by rebels in Elysium also didn't happen.
Hold on. I know that's not true. You're wrong. Okay, the insurrection had a well-documented presence in Elysium.
Yeah, they did, politically. They worked to influence local policy. It got tense. There was occasional violence, but nobody was abducted. We lucked out. It was peaceful. That's why Elysium was refugee central. So boxing coach, total liar.
I needed to verify what she was saying, but I had the gnawing sense she was telling the truth again. But what did this mean? If she was right and none of that happened, the whole story was wrong. And terrifyingly, that would mean someone had fabricated all of it. I needed explanations from my previous sources, and I needed them now. I tried to reach Dion, the boxing coach, no response. Gabriella Dvorak, the lieutenant who liberated John, in the field, unreachable. So I tried detainment survivor Thomas Wu. He answered.
Hello?
Hi, Thomas?
Who is this?
Yeah, I'm sorry to call so late. Is it late there? I just need to ask you something really quickly.
Okay.
I had no idea what I was going to ask. Okay, do you know for absolute certain that Elysium suffered the same fate as your town?
Yeah, I told you that.
I know, but Thomas, I spoke to people who were in Elysium, and they said that wasn't true. Now, look, I know you went through a lot, but I want to know the truth.
Okay.
Do you know for absolute certain that Elysium City was under the violent control of insurrectionists?
Look, what I told you before, that is the best I can remember.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I don't believe that. You remembered it all perfectly. You rattled off the name of every single safe haven city in that region, and you only hesitated once. I was completely making this part up. I was going for broke. You only hesitated where you would have said Elysium City, right?
I mean, look, I don't know for sure.
But Elysium wasn't captured by the insurrectionists, was it?
Hey, what are you, defending them?
I'm definitely not defending...
You know, after what they did, you're going to defend them? They left us locked up for weeks. They let all those people just die. And they did that all over the outer colonies. I mean, what does it matter if it was Elysium or somewhere else after everything that they did?
Thomas, look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I have to bring it up.
I just want peace of mind for my family. That's all I want. It's just...
Wait,
I don't understand. How does lying about insurrectionists in Elysium buy you peace of mind for your family?
At that moment, Thomas suddenly seemed to become entirely lucid, and his tone changed completely.
I shouldn't be talking to you.
Oh, wait, Thomas, hold on.
I can't. Leave us alone.
I suddenly became lucid myself, with a single awful realization. That entire conversation had just taken place over Waypoint. Anyone could have been listening. Please join me for the next episode of Hunt the Truth.
I shouldn't be talking to you.
Oh, wait, Thomas, hold on.
I can't. Leave us alone.
No. No, God, no way that you did not just... If you want privacy online, ChatterNet is a pretty good bet.
Damn it.
Not foolproof, but relatively difficult for the government to monitor. Waypoint, on the other hand, is wide open. Supposedly, the Office of Naval Intelligence has software on the network capable of listening to every single conversation galaxy-wide. And if you say the wrong thing, the conversation gets flagged.
Oh, God, what did I just do?
What I had just done was conduct an unsanctioned follow-up interview with a survivor of a war camp, accused him of lying about it, basically got him to admit that lie, and then ended by possibly implicating my employer, the most powerful military agency in history, in either bribery or coercion. I'd done all of that on Waypoint. I thought I was going to throw up.
Wait a minute.
Maybe it wasn't that bad. I went and listened back. Would they flag that word? What about that one? That phrase sounds bad by itself, but not in context. They factor in tone of voice, right? I was sitting there, emotionally guessing how an insanely sophisticated algorithm is weighted. Basically, I was trying to outsmart a legion of robots.
Damn it, Ben.
It was too late. Those words were gone. That data had been processed. And I had either been flagged or I hadn't. I had no idea what would happen next. I'm Benjamin Giroux, and this is Hunt the Truth.
Benjamin!
I'd never been so happy to hear from Meshach Maradi. I made him triple check the security of our call.
You sure?
Relax. We are under the tinfoil hat of secrecy. Seriously, though, we are fully secured.
Meshach could probably tell I was desperate, when after months of his unsolicited theories, I actually solicited one.
What's going on out there right now?
I'm glad you asked. Strong patterns. A lot of chatter in the military bars, soldiers drunk and unhappy. Local graffiti corroborates these complaints. The helmet overfloweth.
This is how Meshach talks. For a while, I thought maybe there was an actual group of people somewhere who use these terms. But there's not. It's just Meshach.
My prognosis ripples in the ranks. Army, Orb D-Shock troopers, Marines, across the board. Men at arms, up in arms.
When soldiers get frustrated, they get sloppy with their communication. The more frustration, the more unsecured chatter. Right now, there was a lot of both.
And there's a sizable leak of booyah-worthy transmissions distilling the slush.
Ah, the slush. That immense soup of data siphoned off of unsecure networks, the preferred source for nut jobs everywhere. The data's all legit. There's just such an ungodly huge amount of it that it's practically useless. To Meshach's credit, though, he somehow managed to draw somewhat sound conclusions from it on occasion. It was kind of amazing. I asked why there was so much discontent across the military.
MC-11 Scepter.
That's Meshach for the chief.
He's off being creative. He could be off the grid. Fleetcom's trying to smokescreen like they're on top of his position, but they're not. So the trombones are playing the brown note on that one, and the grunts are a-grumbling. The military is one pissed-off polygon right now.
Apparently, some are even questioning Master Chief's motivations and allegiances. The word traitor has been used.
Seriously? If he's disobeying orders, that's bad, but calling the chief a traitor? The guy who legitimately saved humanity multiple times, that's just...
Either way, you have to consider the underlying question. MC is the precedent for free reign in the military. He's held responsible for protecting a galaxy. A job that big requires absolute mobility. But then, that's a whole lot of power to give one man. Hence the dichotomy, Benjamin. Power and responsibility.
Mashak was getting philosophical and making a lot of sense. When it comes to threats against us, though, this issue of power and responsibility has always been shrouded in secrecy. As civilians, we don't know what's happening, who's out there, what they're doing. And according to Mashak, that ignorance could be about to blow up in our faces again.
There's something else afoot, Benjamin. Out here in deep space. I'd hoped these events would turn out to be random, but now it could be bad.
Mashak was a lot of things, but never vague. I asked him what sort of bad he was talking about.
Electromagnetic fluctuations, slip spacious disruption, epidemic data corruption, all of it. I mean, you know, what's happening? It's quiet, it's slight, but it's affecting everything. Ripples on a gigantic scale. I'm talking whole star systems. It's just, I don't want to say I'm frightened. You know what I mean? But to be honest...
I'm sorry, Mashak. Hold on a second. Just hold on.
As Mashak's sketch of a horrifying reality started to emerge, the last thing I wanted to do was interrupt him, but I'd just been reminded of a more immediate, horrifying reality. From Sully, an event on my calendar, no message.
Oh, no.
My stomach dropped. My flight to ONI's Boston headquarters left in 3 hours. They were calling me in. This had never happened to me before. I said goodbye to Mashak. It now seemed painfully clear that my Waypoint conversation with Thomas Wu had been flagged. By the time I landed on Earth, I was one giant ulcer. I'd spent every sleepless hour of the flight running over everything in my head. The conflicting stories I'd heard, the gut-twisting possibilities of what would happen in Boston. I looked and felt like death. All I was looking forward to at this point was Petra Janicek. I'd hit her up right before I left, asked if she'd meet me near the ONI campus. Thankfully, she said yes. Petra and I are in the same line of work. We make the government look good. The last time I saw her was 6 years ago in New Mombasa, the day it happened. We were both there. We both saw the chief do what he did. But afterwards, while I retreated to a quiet little hamlet across the galaxy, Petra stuck around and made a name for herself. I was hoping she could throw me a lifeline, so I threw some cold water on my face, pulled myself together, and met up with her at a local pub.
You know, for a guy just returning from a 6-year spirit walk in deep space, I'm impressed. You actually showed up on time.
Same old Petra. She already knew I'd gotten the Master Chief assignment, and she was not happy. Apparently, she was still waiting for her face-to-face exclusive with the chief. I refrained from laughing out loud at that little fantasy, but she continued with the ball-busting anyway.
So why are you here? No, wait, let me guess. Let me guess the title of your story. Heroism Untold.
It's something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's hard-hitting. What's a Sully-commissioned expose look like nowadays, anyway? And only one sheet of pre-approved sources?
Yeah.
You know, whatever. Okay, you can do a fluff piece over Waypoint from your Rebel Rock. So, again, why are you here?
If you haven't noticed yet, Petra cuts to the chase. Sully called me in.
Sully? He what? He called you here?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. I told her about confronting Thomas Wu, how I'd contradicted a statement of his that was probably supposed to be Sully's main deliverable for the interview. Not only did Petra not see the problem with that, though, she seemed to think it was cute.
Whoa, old Ben G. Rogue. You're coming off the bench feisty.
No,
The guy's not gonna rat on you. It'll just make him look as bad.
I did the whole interview on Waypoint. That got her attention. I think it got flagged.
You think it...
I got the summons from Sully a few hours later. Petra's face and voice hadn't changed, but her eyes were suddenly on fire.
Ben...
I messed up, Petra.
You messed up? How?
The story, it was falling apart, and these inconsistencies between the sources were...
Inconsistencies? With Oni's sources?
No, with mine.
You found sources in the outer colonies?
Yeah, I made friends in the past few years. I doubt Sully realized I'd have that resource in my arsenal.
He definitely didn't. Ben, listen to me. You used to be a government lapdog, at your peak. Then you deep spaced yourself into obscurity. You have no juice now, and that's why they picked you. Sully gives you this bone, you're supposed to be extra eternally grateful. Just wag your little tail and play fetch. So why the hell are you peeing on the rug instead? Have you forgotten the way everything
No,
works?
I don't know. This is bad, Petra.
Ben, it's...
And it's not ancient history either. There are rumblings in the outer colonies right now. Maybe something really bad. I was talking last week to this guy I know.
Ishak Maradi, I know.
How do you know that?
I've continued being an actual journalist for the past 6 years, but who cares, Ben? I hear what you're saying.
We can blow this thing open, Petra.
Okay. All right, cowboy.
No, seriously. This is big. I can't even begin to reconcile the things I'm hearing with the story I'm supposed to tell. Multiple sources, the chief died at 6, complete fabrications, genetically augmenting kids.
I know. They are crazy charging that much for a shore trip.
Suddenly, Petra was ranting about the beach, loudly, and digging her fingertip hard into my forearm. I just sat there, totally confused, as she rambled nonsense, intermittently glancing down at her compad. What was
back in
happening?
there and negotiate a better rate. Because seriously,
Then I
when think
understood.
about all the money you could have saved, it really ain't.
And I froze.
I don't even understand why they would charge you that much.
They were
And I brought
listening.
My entire family.
I'd figured there were cameras on us. There were always everywhere here. But there was full audio surveillance now, too? Is that even possible? She glanced down at her compad one last time.
Don't put up with it. Ben,
Are there ears on us?
there were for the last 45 seconds, but there's always eyes everywhere, so don't look so dramatic. Talk about whatever you want, but look like you're talking about the weather. And if I start actually talking about the weather, you play along, okay?
Apparently, the system didn't bother listening in until you gave it certain visual cues. Facial expressions, body language, anything that looks intense, like my little outburst. The video flags it, and your conversation gets temporarily isolated. Petra's vacay babbling had just saved my ass.
Listen, I believe you that the truth about the story is terrible. But what you're talking about doing, that's door number 2 stuff. You're door number 1 guy.
But I have...
Oh, come on. What are you gonna do? Ben, get the real scoop? You're too sloppy. You can't do this. You're out of touch. You haven't
Maybe
been...
not by myself, but with your help, with other people's help.
Honestly, I love the idea of cutting the strings and tearing it all down, but I'm sorry. It's not gonna be today. And to be brutal, it's never gonna be you.
That was brutal. It stung. I got pissed. And then I immediately knew she was right.
Ben, take the money. Do your job.
God, oh God, oh God, I'm supposed to walk over there right now.
Just tell Sully you were drunk. You were trying to get a rise out of the guy. Something. Just play stupid. Besides, you don't know you got flagged. This meeting could just be a coincidence.
They called me in. This is so weird.
You'll be fine. The worst thing they'll...
I've never
Listen,
called...
Hey, Ben, the worst thing they'll do is kill the story and cut you from rotation. That's probably it. I mean, I can't imagine they would... No, you'll be fine. Just be a good dog. Knock them dead. I'll get the bill.
Thanks, Petra.
But Ben, if I were you, I'd upload whatever you got on the story before you go in. Just send backups to someone you trust, you know, just in case.
That was the closest thing to concern I'd ever heard from Petra. I immediately took her advice and was queuing up all my files to transfer to Ray as I crossed Torrenia Avenue toward ONI. The campus was integrated right into the city. A courtyard of dark buildings, mature oak trees, grass, walkways. It just looked like a campus. The only thing different about it was the sidewalk. Twice as wide as it was across the street. And the inner half of the pavement was black stone, a thick, dark border, several feet wide that surrounded the whole complex. I walked right up to the obsidian half of the sidewalk and stopped. Something was off about the courtyard in front of me, like something was missing. I looked both directions down the sidewalk. There were no fences or guards. Plenty of pedestrians, seemingly none of them paying any attention to the complex as they passed. Except for one tiny thing. None of them, not a single one of the dozens of white-collar workers and shoppers and parents and kids walking up and down that sidewalk laid a foot anywhere near the black half of the pavement. On a 20-foot wide walkway, they were all moving single file right up against the curb. I turned and looked back at the campus, listening. No birds. That's what was missing. There were no birds in the trees. In fact, there was no sound in the air at all. Nothing moved. I stood at the edge of the obsidian. I had no choice. I swiped the transfer folder over to Ray's hard drive, took a deep breath, and crossed the black line. Please join me for the next episode of Hunt the Truth. Hi, I'm here to see Michael Sullivan.
Do you have an appointment?
Yes, I'm Ben Giroux. I have a 1 o'clock. Checking in with a receptionist at the Office of Naval Intelligence is a bizarre formality. Announcing myself, her asking me who I was there to see, it was all just an antiquated conversation, part of their efforts to put a more human face on the operation. In reality, surveillance knew where I'd been every minute since I'd stepped onto transit back at home. Throughout the morning, as I'd made my way from the Boston terminal, this receptionist had likely been prompted with dynamic updates of my exact arrival time, deviations from my optimal course, bathroom breaks, my average walking speed, however they did it. They'd been expecting me.
I'll let him know you're here, Ben.
Okay, thank you. The whole ONI facility was sleek and stark. Everywhere you look, it's sharp lines, the highest quality materials. Most striking, though, was the overwhelming amount of space and silence. This waiting area was particularly sparse. 2 minimalist carbon fiber chairs set 20 feet from each other. I also noticed the seats seemed oddly low to the ground. I picked one and sat down. This chair was really low to the ground. It was awkward. I was probably looking at 60 to 90 minutes of customary wait time here, and squatting like this was not going to help my anxiety level. But I was just pulling up some busy work when the door behind reception suddenly slid open.
Ben? Mr. Sullivan will see you now.
Now,
Yes.
I awkwardly struggled up from the chair and crossed the room. My heart was racing. Thank you. She didn't respond. I stepped into a narrow, empty hallway full of closed doors. I was about to turn around and ask where I was supposed to go, but the door immediately closed behind me. The lighting in the hallway shifted, indicating a closed door at the far end. I walked down the hallway past what I assumed were offices. Everything was soundproof, though, so I had no idea if there were actually people working in there. When I got to the end of the hall, Sullivan's door opened at the last possible second. When I walked in, Sullivan didn't look up. He was sitting behind his desk, intently working on his compad. Hey.
Ben, I'm glad you made it.
I stood there awkwardly for a bit. I realized that this must be the room he'd always talked to me from. It was furnished as minimally as the rest of the building. There were a few shreds of actual personality on display behind him, though. A couple of knickknacks and this antique, simulated analog clock. Sullivan still hadn't looked up. Should I?
Make yourself comfortable.
Okay, yeah. He continued swiping on his compad. I sat down in the chair, just like the other one. My knees were at my ears. I felt oddly far from his desk, too. I tried some small talk. If I didn't take you for an antiques guy, Sullivan, where'd you get the clock?
I've always had it.
Nice. So,
How's the story, Ben?
It's good.
You getting what you need?
Absolutely.
Want to make sure you're getting all your questions answered.
Great. No, yeah, I am. I mean,
Perfect.
I was still desperately trying to figure out what was happening when Sullivan stopped swiping. He looked up at me for the first time, and he had this little twinkle in his eye.
There's someone who'd like to talk to you, Ben.
I'm Benjamin Giroux, and this is Hunt the Truth. Sullivan was walking fast, and I was trying to keep up. The buildings were all connected underground, and the whole complex was far bigger than it had seemed outside. As he led me deeper into the maze, the feel gradually became less corporate and more military. And the more military it got, the more nervous I was getting.
Didn't realize they let civilians in this far. It's a special day, Ben.
Sullivan's department had seemed almost vacant, but now there were more and more people moving through the halls, mostly in uniform. They didn't speak or look up. They just stared down at their compads like Sullivan, swiping as they walked. The ice-cold efficiency of everything was striking.
We're here.
Sullivan led me into a large, dark conference room, and the door closed behind us. In the center of it, there was a massive, well-lit conference table with several chairs around it. Beyond the lights, the edges of the space and high ceilings faded into shadow.
Have a seat.
I did as I was told and sat in one of the chairs. It automatically sank beneath me. I squinted into the darkness. I made out that one of the walls was entirely black glass, probably for observation.
Need any water?
No, I'm all good. I'm all good, thank you. Who am I,
Oh, do you need to do a mic check or anything?
Mic check? Mic check? Are we...
I want to make sure you get all of this.
Get all of... What? Listen, I just...
Relax, Ben. This is gonna be big.
Sully, I just wanted to say that I,
Ben, he's about to walk in. Focus.
Sully, I just wanted to say that I had every intention...
May I present to you Senior Chief Petty Officer Franklin Mendez.
Hi, Ben. How are you?
I stood up. The man who walked in was extraordinarily decorated. Gold stars, silver stars, bronze stars, purple hearts, the Legion of Honor. He looked gritty and hardened, probably by decades of battle. Good afternoon, sir.
We gonna talk about the chief?
Mendez is the man who trained the chief, Ben. I told you I'd take care of you. You're gonna have everything you need for this story.
It was an interview. This was not at all what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't a high-profile face-to-face. All my anxiety completely evaporated. Right, yes, of course. So you're the man to talk to when it comes to the Spartans, huh?
That's correct.
My conversation with Thomas hadn't been flagged. Petra was right. There was no way Sullivan wouldn't have at least said something. I couldn't believe it. My relief blossomed into full awe. I was about to get an insider's perspective from the man who personally trained the Master Chief.
Yeah, Chief's got a bad habit of jumping out of the dropship instead of waiting for it to land. That's his armor absorbed the fall. But that's his prerogative at this point, I guess. And it gets him a hell of a drop on the enemy.
No civilian had ever heard this kind of detail about the Master Chief. Mendez told me that it wasn't long after boot camp that John's unique combination of abilities and drive established a fledgling reputation for the young man.
That kid blew me away. His acumen, his mental quickness, his physical abilities, tactical judgment. I could tell even from a young age that John was a burgeoning, complete package. There was no question in my mind that he was ready for the augmentations. And he couldn't wait.
Once John had the procedures done, Mendez said everyone was blown away by the results.
Medical engineers said his systems integrated flawlessly with the tech. His recovery time was impressively brief. But what was most incredible was how quickly his brain was able to acclimate to the upgrades. It can be like starting from scratch again after those procedures. You're remapping your whole neurology. But while the other guys were still trying to learn to walk, John was running and jumping and kicking ass. I'd never seen anything like it.
This was the birth of the Master Chief. He advanced rapidly, proving himself time and again in the field, constantly re-raising the bar for what a Spartan could be asked to do. Throughout his career, Mendez had gotten to analyze everything these elite soldiers have done in the field. He regaled me with accounts of the Spartan single-handedly taking out dozens of the Covenant. He spoke to the insuperable speed, strength, and accuracy that continued developing over the years. He spoke to Chief's unwavering dedication, his insurmountable will. But according to Mendez, it was something else that would ultimately inform this military legend.
I've never seen a man, augmented or not, be able to make such extraordinarily high-stakes decisions so quickly. Chief will find himself facing a complex scenario in a dense field of variables and almost instantly weigh the costs and benefits, immediately generating a creative solution. He faces dilemmas, ethical, tactical, tough situations that would buckle most human beings if they had a year to mull it over. But he makes the call, usually on the fly, and it's the right call. It's extraordinary. Not to mention, of course, that he then makes a superhuman jump onto an enemy craft in mid-flight, yanks the pilot out of the cockpit, commandeers the bird, and then rams it back down the enemy's throat. The man can execute, too.
Mendez tells me that the Chief has come to expand and deepen the definition of what serving is. In many ways, Mendez seems to think it's that decision-making ability that sets the Chief apart. It's what makes him a leader. It's what's made him a hero.
Wow.
I'm glad you're doing this story, Ben. It's about time the Spartans finally get their due. People need to understand the level of sacrifice that the Chief and all the Spartans make to keep us safe.
You talked a bit about Chief's personality, his dry wit, his loyalty. I'm sure you guys don't sit around talking about your feelings much, but in your opinion, do you think being held at that level of responsibility is hard for him? Protecting a whole galaxy, it seems like it would be an unimaginable heavy burden.
Lucky for you, you don't have to imagine it. No, it is a heavy burden. But Chief has broad shoulders. He's able to make those decisions and get it done. And he takes that task on willingly and with vigor. It's inspiring.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's amazing. But do you think one man should have that much power?
You see now, it's your phrasing there that could get you into trouble. It sounds like you're making a presumption that I could find adversarial, which in turn would make your tone condescending and this conversation decidedly unpleasant. Now that's not something you want, son.
No,
Would you like to rephrase the question?
Of course, I'm sorry.
At that moment, the light suddenly changed in the room, and Sullivan started swiping through his compad.
Room's turning over. I apologize for the inconvenience, gentlemen, but we are about to get a change of venue.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. What I should have said was, if we're leaving these kinds of decisions...
Sorry, Ben, hold on a sec. It looks like we've got access to Jasper 9 now, so we can just head down there if that's all right.
Fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a short walk.
Gentlemen, hold that thought. Looks like I've got somewhere else I need to be.
No problem. I can wait.
Shouldn't be long. Sullivan can reschedule us for around 1600.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
You should appreciate what my Spartans did instead. The only reason you're breathing the air you need to even ask these questions is because they sacrificed more than you'll ever know.
Mendez split off down the hallway as a line of large men in suits silently filed past and disappeared into the conference room behind us. Sullivan was on the move again, buried in his compad. I followed after him.
Sullivan!
Yep.
Yeah, where should I report? It's at 1600?
That's not up yet? Let's see. Oh, no. Wait a minute.
What?
Looks like we're getting a request for raw now. Yep.
For me?
Yeah, you're shipping raw files off for edit by 0900 Thursday.
No, hold on. I can't ship off the raw files. It's all back at home.
You just received boarding docs for the 5:30. That leaves you 24 hours to upload when you get back.
Wait, I've only done mock-ups for the first few episodes.
That's editorial, Ben. Let them worry about it.
But what about Mendez then?
That was awesome.
But I didn't finish.
You got amazing stuff from him, man. Killer interview. Love it. If the other stuff is even half that good, the story's going full distribution, widescreen.
Okay, I know. I'm still in the middle of it though, so I can just wait for him. Sullivan, I can wait here and finish the interview with Mendez. I've got time.
Sullivan stopped walking when I said that. He turned around and walked right up to me. For the first time all day, possibly for the first time ever, I felt like he was giving me his complete, undivided attention.
Ben, you don't have time. You have a deadline and a boarding pass for the 5:30. Okay?
In that moment, it dawned on me that perhaps my Waypoint conversation with Thomas Wu had been flagged. Sullivan turned back into Sullivan and kept moving.
Seriously though, man, amazing stuff. And remember, once this story hits, they're all gonna be eating out of your hand. Travel safe. You earned this, buddy.
For those of you who don't speak ONI, that was me getting fired.
Your pass will expire in 9 minutes.
And according to the AI, I was no longer a welcome guest. I was about to take the long trip home. Taking a second interstellar trip after less than 24 hours sucks enough when you haven't just lost your job. Once I was buckled in, all I wanted to do was get some sleep. But as we started to lift off the platform, something was bothering me. Actually, it was someone.
So there's a guy complaining to the attendant in the next cabin. It sounds like he's on his first trip out of the solar system.
These long flights to the edges of the inner colonies from Earth always had at least one that guy. Some entitled Earth VIP who feels the need to yell about the outrageous inconveniences of slip space travel.
So I definitely recognize his voice. It took me a minute, but that's gotta be him? I think it's Jacob Walker. Jacob Walker. The military retiree I'd spoken to a few weeks back, the happy beach bum who'd been in boot camp with John. That didn't make sense, though. He was on permanent vacation near Saturn. Walker was the last man I'd expect to see on a flight leaving Earth. So I'm about to take off here, but I gotta know for sure. I unfastened the belts, made my way down the aisle, and when I peeked around the partition, I saw him, sitting there arguing with the attendant. But this man was wearing a suit and tie,
and his hair was combed neatly on his head. He looked nothing like the unkempt Walker I saw during our interview. I went for it anyway.
I'm not trying to be difficult here, but you
Jacob?
can't have air quality
I'm
this
sorry,
bad
sir,
and
but
expect that.
unfortunately, there's nothing that I can do about the air quality.
Jacob Walker? All the color drained out of the man's face.
Sir, you need to sit down.
Jacob Walker? If you're thinking I was mistaken and I just freaked out some random business traveler, listen to his reaction when I tell him who I am.
Ben Giro. We talked a few weeks ago?
Oh, yeah, of course. Old boot camp stories. Yeah, I remember you.
That was the Walker I remembered.
Are you here on business or something?
Walker bumbled awkwardly in the conversation. It looked like he desperately wanted to get away, but he was stuck there.
No, what are you doing here on Earth?
Oh, I'm just, taking a little trip.
Sir, we are airborne. Please take your seat.
I thought you were retired.
Yeah, I am. That's right, but... Oh, hey, Ben,
I
think
mean,
we're
I
about
thought
to
you were permanently stationed on a beach.
Yeah,
Sir, last warning. You need to sit down immediately.
Okay, hold on a second, all right?
No, you're done.
No, just take it. Don't touch. What are you doing? Oh. That's when the flight crew sedated me. I blacked out, and my conversation with Walker was over. I woke up in the terminal, back at home, with a pounding headache. By the time I got back to my place, I had a nasty surprise in my inbox, too. It was an order from the Inner Territories Transportation Administration.
Notice of violation. Benjamin Giro. This is to inform you that attached is an ITTA order assessing civil penalties for the in-flight incident? What? Oh, God, they're fining me 50,000 credits?
At least ONI was paying me well for the story. I checked the time. I still had 23 hours to deliver the raw files to Sullivan. That left me ample opportunity to tuck tail and follow orders. I may have been fired, but I wanted the next job, so I needed to just put all of this ugliness behind me. This story was going to be someone else's problem now. I was queuing everything up to send off to Sullivan when I noticed my comm pad was still recording. It had been recording the whole time. The file was massive. I scanned back to the beginning. Most of it was me sleeping, but then I heard something I hadn't remembered happening. It was right after the flight crew had put me down.
Sir, last warning. You need to sit down immediately.
Okay, hold on a second, all right?
No, you're done.
No, just take it. Don't touch. What are you doing? Oh. They hit me with the sedative, but then this happened.
We'll take it from here.
Wait, what? Just let them do their job, Caroline.
Mr. Giro, you are legally obliged by ITTA regulations to comply with crew member instructions at all times.
Wait a minute. What did you just do to him?
Grab his feet. Hit him with another half a mil.
More sedative? No wonder I felt so awful.
Wait a second. What did he just do to me? What did he...
You'll be fine, Ben.
It's not... right.
Ben, they called me. I scrubbed through the rest of the recording. This is them carrying me through the transfer terminal to my connecting flight.
Yeah, I'll be out for another 12. We're good.
What the hell was he doing on that flight?
I don't know, but...
The no intersect was max priority here. How could that even happen? The system shouldn't even let you cross itineraries like that.
Yeah, it's bad. And Sullivan's gonna hear about it.
They had to be talking about Walker and me. But why? They didn't want me to know he was on Earth for some reason. They loaded my limp body into the shuttle, propped me up, and strapped me in. They even said goodbye.
Have a safe trip, Ben.
Ben, like they knew me.
Come on, let's get out of here.
I played the recording again.
Mr. Giro,
and again.
you are legally obliged
I sat there
by
listening
ITTA
to it
regulations
over
to comply with
and
member
over.
instructions at all times.
I'd spent my career working for these people, doctoring photos, trimming threads, making tragedies seem a little less tragic and patriotic stories a little more inspiring. I had always taken whatever story they fed me and obediently vomited it back out to the masses. And to be honest, I'd always been okay with that at the end of the day. Even on this story, after all the accusations of atrocities, all the gaping factual holes I was just supposed to ignore, I'd still been willing to play along. I wish I could say it was my principles or some moral stand that finally set me off, but it wasn't. It was my pride. Listening to that recording, the way they tossed me aside, every time they called me Ben, I checked the time. I only had a few hours left to turn in the files if I wanted to keep on Sullivan's clock for the story. I canceled the transfer. I was going to take that time for myself. I sat down in front of this very microphone, recorded a quick intro, and uploaded the beginnings of my story, the real story of the Master Chief, loose threads and all, into the galaxy.
Have a safe trip, Ben.
Please join me for the next episode of Hunt the Truth.